Today, I want to talk about the scariest show on Netflix. This show is more terrifying than American Horror Story, Haunted House, and Slasher. This show is called Sex Life. I know what you're thinking. How is this show so scary? Well, let's get started. Now, I want you to imagine that you just finished school. You begin to establish yourself in that field. You begin to make some money. You start to even make a name for yourself in your career. You decide to give back to your school, to give out advice. You meet a beautiful woman. You fall in love. You meet her parents. You even propose to her. She says yes. You get married. You find an immaculate house in the suburbs. You have 2 beautiful kids. You still manage to keep a six-pack. After 7 years of marriage, you find out your wife is a thought. Not just a manageable thought, a super duper mega thought. How do you find this out? Well, she decides to write on her laptop in graphic detail how she misses being a thought. She even leaves it wide open on her computer so that the first thing you see when you open the laptop. She begins to write in this thought diary about her big dick ex. You panic. You don't know what to do. The first thing you do is you try to please her sexually. Doesn't work. So you plan an exciting dinner date with her. This dinner date takes lots of time and effort, so much so that you're exhausted the next day. Plus, you have to go to work. Your wife sees that you're mad, but instead of actually trying to communicate with you, she travels across the city to meet her best friend, who is currently still a thought. And guess what? She's dating your wife's big dick ex. Side note, I want to talk about the ex real quick. He is the embodiment of the bad boy trope. He has commitment issues, he even has a leather jacket and a motorcycle. If you're trying to convince me that this guy would still be obsessed with his ex after she had 2 kids, you lost me. This dude has options. He would not be stuck on his ex-girlfriend like this. Now, her ex sees that she's still obsessed with him. He begins to actively pursue her by doing things like, existing and having sex with her best friend while she hears over the phone. Like, bitch, you couldn't turn off the phone? You're running out of options. So your wife suggests that you take her to an orgy party. You're doing this to make her happy. You get a blowjob from someone at the party. Now your wife is mad at you for getting a blowjob at the party you didn't want to go to. You get into a fight with a coworker at the sex party, which almost cost you your job. Your wife tells you that she doesn't want people to interfere with your marriage. During this time, people realize that you're having a tough time with your marriage. Multiple women start hitting on you, including your boss. You turn them all down to stay faithful to your marriage. At the end of it all, your wife runs away to get fucked by her big dick ex, and this is considered the happy ending.
Now fuck me.
Man, this show fucking sucks. The show spends 8 episodes trying to convince the audience that she should be allowed to have an affair. There's a reason this show has a low ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. It is literally cheating propaganda. They do everything in this show to take away the wife's accountability by saying she's unhappy and unfulfilled after having 2 kids. The funny thing is, she doesn't know how to communicate effectively, even though she went to school for psychology. She didn't finish her degree because she had kids, but to be honest, that's her own fault. It doesn't help that her husband is damn near perfect, and when he does get a blowjob at the sex party that she convinced him to go to, by that point he had been neglected by his wife for so long that he wanted to connect to someone who wanted him, but she still finds reasons to fawn over her ex. The ex, by the way, not a great guy. He's abusive, manipulative, and has anger issues. She had a pregnancy scare, and the first thing he did was abandon her and call her a slut. But his big dick banged on that womb, causing her to have a miscarriage, but none of this matters because he's good looking and great at sex. The show literally tells you that if her ex was not still good looking, the show would not exist. The show does not have an interesting plot, so it does its best to distract you by having sex scenes thrown on the screen. As soon as the show starts to get boring, boom, sex scene. The reason why I call this the scariest show on Netflix is because it can happen to anyone. It is easier to fight a ghost or vampire than it is to fight divorce court. This man has 2 kids with this woman, and she's pretty much saying the entire show that she misses her big dick ex. There's nothing he can do about it. At that point, his marriage is pretty much over. With current divorce courts, he's gonna get fucked. He pretty much would have to cut his losses and move on. The show is softcore porn, and she'd be burned with fire. This is a 4 out of 10, and I'm out.